Coming in last, we have BB9E, who I don't really think he's that great. His shock prod does a lot less damage than BB-8's. His shock spin is very good against infantry, as you can see, wiping a lot of them out. His smoke screen, you know, it's just smoke. It's not that great. I don't really think BB9E is that good. Next up, we have Lando, who he's okay. His night sniper doesn't really have that much range, which is kind of ironic because they call it a sniper. His sharp shot can be really good against infantry because it can take out multiple at once. And his disabler can be pretty good, except for the fact that it can be dodged very easily. But if you catch the person in a bad situation, the disabler can still be very useful. And his smoke screen, or his smoke grenade is, you know, it's not that great. It's a smoke grenade. They're really not the best things in the world. Grenades and detonite charges like Han's are going to be better than that. So I don't think Lando is that solid of a choice. Next up, we have Chewbacca, who is pretty decent. I like Chewbacca. His ground slam is pretty good. It can deal decent damage and can knock you back pretty far. If you use Chewie's shock grenade and use it with his fierce bowcaster, you can do a lot of damage if you focus on the villain's head. You can do a bunch of damage because of the headshots. And yeah, that's why I have Chewie here on this list. Next up, we have Captain Phasma, who is pretty good. I like Captain Phasma. She's not that bad. Her staff strikes are pretty good counters to the lightsaber attacks. Her survivor ability can really get you out of sticky situations, and her droid can basically kill you if you get shocked by it, and she only focuses on headshots. Next up, we have BB-8, who I think is a pretty solid choice. His shock prod does a lot more damage than BB-9E's, but really that isn't his best attack. His best attack is definitely his cable spin, which can do serious damage to you. He also has his rolling charge ability, where he can, it's basically like Han's shoulder charge. Then he has resistance backing, which is just basically a locator. He can find out where you are. So yeah, that's why I think BB-8 deserves this spot on the list. Next up, we have Bossk, who is pretty good. He's a pretty solid choice. His Predator Instincts, which is basically his grenade launcher ability, is really powerful. It can do a lot of damage. His proximity mines, if you step on them, they can almost take away half your health. If you step on all three of them, they all activate and they all hit you. That can do a lot of damage. His gun is sort of strange, where the longer you ADS with it, the more like damage it does, I guess. So it's kind of hard to use, at least for me. Then we have his Dioxis grenade, which is basically a gas grenade, which does pretty good damage if you can't get out of there. But yeah, that's why I think Bossk is a pretty decent choice in Star Wars Battlefront 2. Next up, we have Finn, who I think is a really good gun hero and can really do serious work if you know how to use him. His gun is really good. He can do a lot of damage if you hit headshots. His big deal ability can really help you out with more health, and also it can give you, it can refresh your abilities if you have the right star cards. Then he has a Deadeye ability, which can lock on to targets, which is really good. And he has Undercover Team, where he pulls out a pistol. Next up, we have Iden Versio, who I think is a pretty solid choice in Star Wars Battlefront 2. The best thing to do with Iden is kind of bait your opponent into rushing you and underestimating you, and then use the shock ability that she has, and only focus on headshots. You can get him down to half health and almost dead, and then just utilize Iden's secondary fire, which cannot be blocked, and you can basically get a free kill that way. Next up on the list, we have Yoda, who I think is pretty good. He's definitely the weakest lightsaber hero in my opinion. His lightsaber attack doesn't do much damage, and his dash attack was nerfed, and now it doesn't do much damage either. It still goes through blocks, but it's not that great of an ability. His unleash can be very good if it's charged up by blaster bolts, and his presence ability just gives him more health, which can be very useful. Next up on the list, we have Rey, who is pretty. This is on the list where we start to get to pretty good, like usable. I would say Rey is definitely usable. All of them are usable, but she is very, very, very good. All of her abilities are good. The really main one is Mind Trick, where it inverts your controls, and her Dash Strike is also good. Next up on the list, we have Boba Fett, who is the only jetpack hero. I like using Boba. He's fun to use. Whenever you use Boba, you really rely on your aim. His rockets are useful, and his concussion grenade is useful, especially against Finn, because they can get rid of his Deadeye ability. But really with Boba, you just need to focus on having good aim and hitting all your shots, or as many as you can, or you will definitely struggle with Boba. Next up on the list, we have Obi-Wan Kenobi, who can be quite annoying to play against because of his insane blocking stamina. His all-out push ability can be very useful as well. It does major damage, and whenever you're using the ability, it actually makes you take a lot less damage. His rush ability, you cannot be hit by a lightsaber whenever using it. And it is, I think it's called Defensive Rush. Yeah, Defensive Rush. It is very good ability. And then also his Restrictive Mind Trick, which takes away all of your abilities. Next up on the list, we have General Grievous, who I think is a very solid choice when playing Battlefront 2. All three of his abilities are good. He has a good Claw Rush ability, which can knock you to your feet, or just knocks you down basically. But he also has a ability where he locks onto you and hits you with a strike. And then he has an ability where he spins his lightsabers, and that ability is very good. It can definitely take you out if you're not careful. But his Claw Rush was recently buffed. Well, not that recent, but in one of the last updates. And now you can hit people twice with one Claw Rush, which is very useful against infantry and against villains, or against heroes actually. But yeah, I think General Grievous is a very strong choice in Heroes vs. Villains or Trooper modes or really any mode that you can pick him. Next up on the list, we have Leia, who used to be one of the weaker choices in Battlefront 2, but actually got a buff in which she just became a lot better. Her primary blaster, the burst pistol, is very, very good. Next up on the list, we have Han Solo, who is probably one of my favorite blaster heroes to use. He has 3 great abilities. One of them is his detonite charge. One of them is his sharpshooter ability. And one of his abilities is his charge ability, where he can knock you down. I really like the detonite charge because it is kind of like a C4, where you can just detonate it whenever you want, and it can do a lot of damage. His pistol is really good as well, and when you use the sharpshooter ability, it becomes even better. Next up on the list, we have Emperor Palpatine, who is one of my favorite heroes, or one of my favorite villains to use. He is just really good. He can do a lot of damage. His chain lightning is really good, especially in trooper modes. You can kill a lot of troopers with that ability. His R1 ability can basically stun you for a matter of seconds, and his O1R1 ability, which is Dark Aura, can do a lot of damage against troopers. It's basically just kind of like an electric tornado that just follows Palpatine for a while. His chain lightning is basically like an ability where he can fire lightning and it will bounce off of multiple targets and hit multiple people. But yeah, that's why I think Emperor Palpatine is a really strong choice in Star Wars Battlefront 2. He's good in HVV. He's really good in trooper modes. He is one of my favorite heroes or villains to use in trooper modes because it's just so fun to get kind of a feed with Palpatine's chain lightning. You can get, one time I think I got like maybe 10 kills with it in just one go, and it's just really fun to use, and he is very good at stunning heroes and then being able to finish them off. But in Heroes vs. Villains, it's hard to use Palpatine and work by yourself and kill a lot of heroes. Next up on the list, we have Darth Maul, who I really like, and he is just so mobile and so fun to use. He has 3 great abilities with his spin attack, his force choke, which throws you, and also his lightsaber throw. I really like using Maul because he's very agile, and sometimes it's very fun to throw people off the map with his force choke. Next up on the list, we have Anakin Skywalker, who also is a very fun choice for me. He actually has 4 abilities, which one of them is Retribution, where he charges it up. He charges it up over time, and it's basically like his Heroic Might, except it'll lift people into the air and then throw them far away. He also has a pull ability and Heroic Might, like I was saying, where it's like kind of like a ground slam. And he also has Passionate Strike, which can do a lot of damage, and it actually goes through blocks. Next up on the list, we have Count Dooku, who is really not fun to face in Battlefront 2. His main ability is so overpowered. It is called Duelist, and I think you can swing faster while also dealing a bunch more damage. You can kill a hero in 4 swings when you use Duelist, and there are actually star cards that can help you do more damage and make it come back faster. He also has a lightning attack. It's one of his abilities. It's like lightning. He shoots out lightning out of his hand. And then also he has an exposed weakness ability. Next up on the list, we have Kylo Ren, who is my favorite choice in Battlefront 2. His freeze ability is so good. It basically just freezes the opponent, and then you can attack them without them being able to do anything. He also has an ability called Pull, which he just pulls people. And then his final ability is an ability called Frenzy, which if he hits, it's basically a trio of lightsaber swings. But in order to do a second swing, you have to hit your first swing. And in order to do a third swing, you have to hit your second swing. So if you don't hit your first swing, you can't do 3 attacks. But if you hit your first swing and not your second swing, then you can't do 3 attacks. You have to hit your first and your second attack to hit that third attack, and that third attack can go through blocks. Next up on the list, who is in second place, is Luke Skywalker, who is a very strong choice in Star Wars Battlefront 2. He has a push ability. He has an ability called Repulse, which is a ground slam, and he has a dash strike. Another thing I really like about Luke is he has a star card, and basically what it does is whenever you do 200 damage, it increases your damage. Next up on the list, we have Darth Vader, who is in first place, to no surprise. He is definitely the strongest choice on the dark side. He is definitely the strongest choice in Star Wars Battlefront 2. He has 3 tremendous abilities. He has a Force Choke, which basically makes it so the other person cannot move. He has a lightsaber throw, which was nerfed but is still really good, especially if you put a certain star card on. And then his main ability, which is definitely my favorite. It is called Furious Resilience, in which it gives him more health. It gives him about 200 more health, maybe, yeah, I think it's like 200 more health. And also, if you pair it with multiple star cards, you can take less damage while in Furious Resilience, and you can also do more damage whenever you have Furious Resilience popped. I love Darth Vader. He is so fun to use, and he is definitely not fun to play against. Whenever you're facing Darth Vader, you already know it's going to be a long day.